Okay, hello, people of YouTube land, those that are part of the Cringe Crew Gaming Community Discord, those that follow Ted and I on Twitch, and those that are probably listening to this on whatever audio streaming service that this is on. I am Traductus,
And I'm Ted.
and again with Werewolf Week here, we watched An American Werewolf in London. Directed by John Landis, who also directed Kentucky Fried Movie, National Lampoon's Animal House, and The Blues Brothers. Also, a couple segments in the Twilight Zone, the movie. And I did say that this was released in 1981, right?
I don't know. I don't
Right,
think
yeah.
so, but maybe you have now.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the second time we tried recording this, so bear
Internet was
in mind, we're
super
still
scuffed.
scuffed. We're still scuffed. Anyway, released August 21st in 1981 with a budget of $5.8 million and a box office return of $62 million in true, horror film uh, style where the studio only gives you a small ass budget. They go, all right, make us money. Now, I guess we'll go into background on this with the cast. We got David Naughton as David Kessler, who is, spoiler, the werewolf in this movie. David Naughton is fairly unknown during this, but he's even still kind of unknown today. He's more known for this, but he's also known for being in a ad for Dr. Pepper with the Be a Pepper campaign, which they bring back every now and then. Like, not like probably like the original commercial, but like, I've heard the slogan Be a Pepper in in a few Super Bowl commercials. He was also in the Disney comedy Midnight Madness in 1980, and also the short-lived sitcom Making It, which he sang the theme song, and it gave him a top 5 hit on the Billboard charts. We have Jenny Agutter as Nurse Alex Price, who ends up being David's love interest in this. She's known for being in the critically acclaimed film Walkabout, the TV film The Snow Goose, and she won a Emmy for her role in that. And she's also in a couple MCU movies, that being The Avengers and also Captain America and Winter Soldier. We had for Jack's best friend, sorry, not Jack's best friend, I mean David's best friend, Jack, again, still scuffed here. Griffin Dunn. He's known for this. Also, he was in a couple episodes of Frasier, Law and Order, Criminal Intent, and Alias. He's also the wife of Carrie Lowell, who plays Pam Bouvier in the James Bond movie License to Kill, because apparently we can't get away with having a movie without a James Bond reference. Which I know Ted's like, kill me now.
Yeah, just one. I just want one goddamn movie.
The only other person, I mean, there's also like John Woodvine, who's an English stage actor. He plays like this doctor that has like a Dr. J.S. Hirsch that has like a prominent role, but the only person of note really that I've seen on here is Frank Oz as Mr. Collins, who just has a bit part. Frank Oz is known for his involvement with Jim Henson and the Muppets, and also like he portrayed Yoda in the Star Wars series. But as in the Muppets, he's played Fozzie Bear, Miss Piggy, Sam Eagle, Animal.
And he sounds like fucking Fozzie Bear, dude.
And he was also a puppeteer in the Dark Crystal.
Interesting.
that being said, right into production and filming. Uh, John Landis came up with the story on this in Yugoslavia as a production assistant on Kelly's Heroes. He saw like a group of Romani people performing like rituals on a man being buried, and he asked like what were the rituals for, just to kind of understand the culture. They told him it's so that way the man doesn't rise from the grave, which made Landis think of the Wolfman, which was one of Landis's favorite films. So he decided to write his own werewolf movie. uh Now, even though he did direct a horror comedy with his debut film Schlock, which I haven't seen or heard of, he did try pitching this to like a bunch of like studios at the time, but a lot of Hollywood studios didn't know what the hell to do with this because like they felt like his script was too frightening to be a comedy and too funny to be a horror film. Uh as in like the script, but after box office hits like Kentucky Fried Movie, Animal House, and the Blues Brothers, Universal Studios gave Landis the okay to make this. Universal did try pressuring Landis to cast Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi as David Kessler and Jack Goodman, but Landis was adamant, like, no, I want to use unknown actors for this, and I'm kind of glad that he did, because not that Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi would have like gave bad performances in this, but like it would be very distracting seeing Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi in this.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Also, Landis, for like the scenes that were filmed on the moor, uh, he made sure that this was filmed with like in poor weather, so that way it was actually had the set the setting for the scenes on the moor, as well as like he pictured it. Uh, the films that were shown in the pub were actually at a real pub, but it's not called the Slaughtered Lamb. It's actually the Black Swan, located Old Lane, Martyrs Green in Surrey. And this was also the first film to be allowed to be shot in Piccadilly Circus in 15 years. Landis accomplished this by inviting 300 of London's Metropolitan Police Service to a screening of The Blues Brothers, and they were so impressed by his work that they granted him a 2-night filming permit between the hours of 1 and 4 a.m. And this was also shot at Thickenham Film Studios, and also London Underground, London Zoo, and various places, throughout London. The music, which is ironically upbeat, um, all of like the licensed music contain the references to the moon, like Bobby Vinton's Blue Moon, Van Morrison's Moon Dance, Creed's Clearwater's Bad Moon Rising, and Sam Cooke and the Marcel's version of Blue Moon are both in this movie. And
Stupid.
this movie was released in VHS, Betamax in 81, then released in Laserdisc in 84, and then for some reason Universal Studios didn't release this on home video for like 17 years. So it's kind of weird, like, a movie that was like this like successful at the box office had like a 17-year gap into like re-releasing it, but there we go. But as in more for background, this movie had a couple people that were very impressed by it, including director Edgar Wright, who directed, Shaun of the Dead. I believe he directed Hot Fuzz too, right?
I think so.
Uh, yeah, he did. Okay. Uh, And he said that this movie definitely gave him inspiration for his own movie making, including like Shaun of the Dead. Michael Jackson was also a fan of this movie and chose to use John Landis to direct this. Rick Baker, who did the makeup effects in this movie, he chose them both to work on the music video for Thriller, and which went on to become, widely considered the best music video of all time. This movie did have a sequel called American Werewolf in Paris, which both are a play of the title An American in Paris, which is like a movie back in 1951, and also with this movie specifically is also a throwback to the title Werewolf of London, which was a werewolf movie in 1935. But American Werewolf in Paris was released in 1997, and spoiler, it's shit and did not feature John Landis. Now, this movie has been proposed to be remade. There's suggested that Max Landis, the son of John Landis, was considered remaking this, and however, he reported on Twitter that he confirmed the first draft of the script. However, he turned out to be a piece of crap and was like Harvey Weinstein. So therefore, in wake of those allegations, he got replaced. And so far, the update that we have for like a remake of this movie is that Robert Kirkman, the creator of the Walking Dead comic book series, was in consideration to produce a new reboot of this movie. And that's what I have for... Oh, wait. Also, the awards that this movie's got. I fucking forgot about that. This movie won Best Makeup Effects at the Academy Awards. That went up against a movie called Heartbeats, which I have never heard before. And then this also won Best Horror Film for the Saturn Awards, and also got nominated in the Saturn Awards for I think Best Writing, and then also Best Actress. And now I think we can go into likes and dislikes.
Okay.
Oh wait, no. What's this plot?
It's a werewolf movie, Stelman. We can move along. All right. I think so. I'd rather start with dislikes because I feel like it's a good preface for me and what I have to say. As long as you're cool with that.
Yeah.
So my main takeaway from this movie is that it's just kind of flat. Like, there's not a whole lot that really like grips me or demands my attention. There's not a lot that like really makes me invested in this movie. That's not to say that it's bad. I just feel apathetic towards it. Nothing hooked me.
Yeah, it is kind of like a standard werewolf plot, because like as I was talking to Ted, like I still think this is objectively the greatest werewolf movie of all time. It's not my favorite. We will get into what my favorite is, and it's not because it's particularly good, it's because it's an experience to watch. But
yeah, like to its credit, I mean, I think it hits all the notes, right? Like, I mean, you get the transformation, you get the origin story, you get like some of that mystery around the werewolf, you get the full moon, and like we all know what a werewolf is, we get the idea. And it has all of those elements to its credit, but I guess it's just like the idea
it doesn't do enough different for it to be like just like the plot itself doesn't do enough different things to make it like different for it to really like stand out and be invested in.
So when we watched,
I'm assuming,
yeah, kind of when we watched Wolfman, right? Like, I think my idea with Wolfman is that you got some of the more basic elements, right? Like, you got the transformation, you got the, got to kill it with silver, right? But like, you're missing the full moon. You were missing like dramatics and investment, right? When we watched Silver Bullet, it was a whole lot less about the werewolf itself. You didn't really get any origin. It was just kind of a monster slasher movie, right? But
yeah, and Gary Busey,
right? But then it was entertaining because it had those dramatic like storytelling elements, right? And I guess this has a little bit of both of those things. But I think I don't know if it's a detraction to this movie or if it's just because, again, like I can say, imagine a werewolf movie and that's the plot, right? Like that's
right.
Like I don't know if that's the movie's fault or if it because it is so standards, right? Like it can be, like you said, it can be the greatest werewolf movie of all time. It can at least be the baseline, right? For like this is what a movie should be that is a werewolf movie, but I guess it just doesn't like there's no over the top sell. There's nothing that really pushes me to want to see this again. I don't really care. It is the end of the day. Some other negatives just while I'm here. I think the dialogue and the acting were kind of corny.
Yeah, in some cases that is.
You mentioned that like it was not quite a horror, not quite a comedy.
Right.
And like I feel like that is evident by the lack of concern from the acting. In the idea that like they didn't sell it as a comedy, they didn't sell it as a horror. They just kind of existed in a werewolf plot. And it again, it can be the standard for what a werewolf movie is supposed to be, but because it's that standard, it's just a baseline boring. There was not really a lot of redemption to this.
I am quite to disagree, but I do say that there are points where I think like with it being like a horror comedy, there are times where the comedy does fall flat and distracts from like certain horrifying scenes that are happening, like the like when the werewolf like transforms in the porn theater and then like he's just like mauling everything, like every person that's in the fucking like movie theater, and then like a police officer goes in to investigate, see this werewolf just tearing this corpse to shreds, and then in the background you just hear the porn movie in the background, and it's like there's a couple of times where you would literally think like it just going like him just going oh my god, and then hearing like a woman orgasming in the background going oh my god, you know. It just kind of kills this horrifying scene dead by just like having like it's like okay, here's this horrifying scene, and then now there's comedy, and then you know it just like the tension's gone.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm not here to say that like there wasn't horror to it or there wasn't comedy to it, right? Like it gave you those bits of both. I guess they just like they weren't pronounced enough to feel confidently putting it in either genre.
And also the ending, when like spoiler alert, the werewolf dies not from a silver bullet. I will actually get into like the comedy bit with like how they explain why the werewolf doesn't get killed with a silver bullet, but because that's actually a complaint where I have on that.
I'll send it. For dislikes, I mean, send it.
Yeah. All right. So the joke is that before he turns into a werewolf while he's in the porn theater, he's talking to like his dead friend and then also all of his victims and shit like that, and they're suggesting like you know ways for him to kill himself, which is a good scene. Like that scene's freaking hilarious, but we're not into likes on this. But David asks like his friend, it's like, don't I need a silver bullet? Oh, and Jack just goes, it's like it's just like don't be ridiculous, and it's like. Yeah, because using a silver bullet is the most ridiculous part of the werewolf mythos, or the most ridiculous part of this movie would be, you know, the werewolf dying from a silver bullet. It's like the scene's taking place in a freaking porn theater. There's a porn happening in the background while they're having like this freaking discussion. But the most ridiculous thing ever would have been like he would need a silver bullet. I think that's kind of a lame joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, also with like the comedy like not just like really working and killing a moment, like the nurse and David like fall in love. and she basically tries to like, you know, like reach David's humanity while he's the werewolf, because like, you know, the police are gonna fucking shoot him if he doesn't, and unfortunately, you know, he doesn't, and he gets shot and killed, and when she's like, you know, cradling him, you know, obviously sad. And then it cuts to the doo-wop version of Blue Moon. It's like Blue Moon, Blue Moon, Blue Moon, which I will admit, if I made a movie, I would be that asshole, would think that was amusing, and I did laugh at it because I did think it was amusing, but it did kill a very emotional scene, so it kind of detracts from the movie, if that makes sense.
I agree. And I also want to talk about the nurse and David because I think that there's like a sense of, you know, deniability that like you recognize that at some rate, like you've never gone to the doctor's office and picked up somebody, taken them home. And if you have, I'm almost guessing that it wasn't a medical professional that you trust. And then the first time you come over, she wouldn't just be like, yeah, you have free reign over my house. Do whatever, man. Like, it's just kind of, there's weird plot driving narratives there that I guess that like they're easy enough to overlook, but it's also like the, not the origin of the plot, but like it establishes the setting for the plot to happen. It just, man, why? Like it's lazy. It's lazy.
Yeah. That's really all I have for
dislikes.
Oh wait, no, I do have one dislike. And it's like, I know that this is a little bit on the nose, but hey, when you have all of the songs reference the moon, I think this wouldn't be too on the nose, judging by like how the rest of the soundtrack is. You couldn't have had Warren Zevon's Werewolves of London in this goddamn movie. I'm just saying, it writes itself. But I know Ted's rolling his eyes at me.
I'm having an aneurysm. I can feel my brain cells bursting.
Number 2 for the Cringe Crew Gaming podcast. I have to make Ted cringe.
All right. To move into likes, I did have a couple. The makeup was fantastic.
Oh,
I think the werewolf looked really good. I think what was it? It was John. Was it Jake? Jack was his friend.
Corpse.
Yeah. Jack looks like shit when he's dead, and then they progressively rot him further, so that every time he makes an appearance, like he is more decomposed and disgusting. Obviously, really good. Jack as a character is the closest thing we get to redeeming in this.
Jax easily steals this movie.
Easily. Like, not even fucking close. I don't even know that it's theft. I think they just kind of put it in his lap because he was the only one doing anything. You
should kill yourself. You're gonna be a werewolf, dude. You should kill yourself. Well, now that you know that you're a werewolf, you should honestly, you know, kill yourself.
I think there's it's a bit of humor. It's a bit like Jiminy Cricket-esque, except instead of being like high morality, it's die. But the same kind of idea where it just kind of comes in, provides that plot driving force that, like, you know, only the main character can see. And I think it's kind of a nice piece of the thing. Jack's character is just really good.
Yeah.
I had another one, and then I started talking again, and then I lost it. So we'll just call that it for now. And if I think of it, we'll come back to it.
How the characters interact is very natural, and like the characters themselves are actually really fleshed out. To an extent, if that makes sense, you know.
Mostly,
like they how, like, you know, like Jack's relationship with the nurse, and also like not Jack's relationship, David's relationship with the nurse, and then also David's conversations with Jack, like it's very like it's very well acted how they interact with each other, and also with even some of like the side actors, with the exception of Frank Oz, just because he just sounds like Fozzie Bear, so it just detracts.
I didn't care much for the detective either. I thought his interactions were a little weird when he went to the village with the with
Oh,
the
that's the
pub,
doctor.
the doctor, whatever.
Yeah.
Detective same shitty character. I don't know. I think the characters were flushed for what they needed to be. I wouldn't say that they were thoroughly developed. Like, they had everything they needed to have, but I don't know that they were full thoughts.
Oh,
if that makes sense.
But it's
I'll give you half
not,
agreement. Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to say that when the blending of horror and comedy like is done well in this film, it's done very well. Like my favorite scene in the entire thing is when they're walking in the moors and like the werewolf is stalking them, and then there's like it's tense, and then they do the comedic element where it's like less tense, but then it gets fucking tense again. Like it's like a huge jarring back and forth, and like especially like when it really comes to like a climax, it's like, oh, it's a coyote. It's like there's no coyotes here, and then you hear it. It's just like, well, maybe it's a dog, like a sheepdog. It's like, all right, nice doggy, and then it's like it honestly kind of reminded like of me, like Ted, either playing COD or Dead by Daylight, where we're playing against like some like a truly like frightening like killer like Ghostface, or like when Freddy was like terrifying. It's like Jesus, he's like fucking circling us. I just like laughed hysterically at that, and then David falls over, and then Jack just gets mauled, and then it just like it's so sudden and jarring that it catches you off guard, and it's horrifying. It's like when there's certain scenes like that where it's like it breaks the tension, and then just like ups the tension like tenfold. Like it works out very well, and honestly, like, I will say this, Shaun of the Dead did that better. A lot better than this movie did, because it's more consistent. But, like, there's certain scenes like that, when that's done very well, it's done extremely well. Another example is, like, when he's, like, stalking the British dude that's in the subway. Like, you hear, like, the werewolf, and then obviously the guy in the subway does like a stereotypical British response going, it's like, I hope to know that if you're praying a plank on me, I will call across Scotland Yard and have you arrested. And he sees it's a werewolf, and he's like, oh shit, and then starts running away, and then you start seeing like, the werewolf's path of like chasing this guy down, and then it cuts to like a scene where he's like kind of calmed down, but then you see like a poster of like for like the porno movie. It just says like non-stop orgy on that, so it's like you kind of laugh at that, and then all of a sudden like the werewolf catches up to him, and then on like the escalator, like it's like I wish that the comedy had more scene, like the blending of the horror and the comedy had more scenes like that, as opposed to like the comedy like just
like being
falling
juxtaposed
flat.
in, yeah.
You already covered makeup effects, which are easily the best thing. Oh, this is easily like probably like the best. This is usually like the gold standard for like a werewolf transformation, and like I would say this is at least top 3 for me. Like I love like the practical effects on the werewolf transformation. Like they're superb. I love how gross it is too, because he's like clammy and slimy. At this, that it reminds me of like David Cronenberg's The Fly, when like Jeff Goldblum just starts like, his skin starts fucking peeling off and everything. Like that's what kind of reminded me in that scene, and it's also the only transformation scene that I've kind of seen where like the werewolf transformation is like painful, if that makes sense. Like it is agonizing and disturbing.
Yeah.
Let's see other things. Oh, my probably biggest thing that I have to say that I think what kind of makes this movie sets it definitely apart from like a lot of other werewolf movies, especially like The Wolfman, is that the werewolf itself a lot of the times is either like a which in this case it is also like a allegory for like the id or like, you know, puberty, like, you know, the man, like male desires and shit. And within this movie, like when before David becomes a werewolf, like he's like talking to his friend Jack about like, you know, women, like Jack's obsessed with like a high school crush, and David's just like, she's just a woman, there's like a bunch of women all over the place, you know. He's not really like, he's not like some like horny college student like his friend is. And then when he becomes a werewolf, it's like he becomes more of like an animal, and then therefore becomes like, you know, the horny college student with the nurse. But with the werewolf, there's more to it than that. I know that there is somebody wrote an article, like a discussion, that the werewolf is an allegory for like anti-Semitism, and how like the outside world views, like how anti-Semites kind of view like Jewish people. And I would say, yeah, kind of to an extent, to like, you know, I can see where he's going with that, because like there are references to like the character, you know, being Jewish. But I'd say it's more so an allegory for like xenophobia. Just because, like, well, Jack and David, they stop at the tavern, there's just hostility with them being outsiders to begin with. Like, yes, it's, you know, because like, you know, it's a full moon out, there's the werewolf and everything, but there's still that tension of like they're outsiders, and they don't give them any information whatsoever. And even when the doctor comes in and then questions the, you know, tavern people, they're a little bit more receptive to him, but they're still standoffish to him for him being an outsider. And I don't think it was a mistake to really have the werewolf, like have David become a werewolf in the city, just because like what is like your stereotypical trope of like a conservative pundit, you know, don't go to the city, there's, you know, undesirables there, whether they be, you know, leftists, foreigners, you know, like name your typical conservative scapegoat, and it's always like why cities are like bad and everything. And here you have like a foreigner in England, you know, basically turn it into that monster of how like the conservative portrayal of like, or like extreme nationalist portrayal of like how they portray, you know, people that are foreigners, or like just like just whatever select undesirable group, you know, causing mayhem within the city. And, you know, just like, you know, if you stay in your small town, you'll be safe. And like, I think that's actually like really cool that there's, even though yes, this is just like a stereotypical werewolf plot, I have to say, like, at least like there's more to like what the werewolf represents than just like your stereotypical scary monster, or like some like, you know, just like repressed psychological desire.
I mean, makes sense, but it feels a little bit like a stretch, but like I get it. Like as you explain it, I can't say it's completely unreasonable, but it also just feels like unintentional if it's there. I don't know. Like it's interesting.
I think it's intentional, especially since like in the pub they did make like that, you know, racially insensitive joke. Although I wouldn't say that it was that. It was actually, I'd say, more so historical.
And I think, like, so you said it was intentional that they were in the city because of the, you know, xenophobia, right? And like, okay, I get why you say that, but also like just the idea that like there are more victims. There's probably a better hospital. The reasons that the town didn't say anything was because they're all familiar with it, right? That like, I mean, it's not like they told these kids like, hey, go out there, find the werewolf and die. It was just, you shouldn't be here, right? Like, so I get what you're saying. It feels like a stretch, but I also, like, I can't just be like, yeah, nope, totally unreasonable, not real, fuck you, Stallman. Like, that's not, you know, like, it just...
I have a feeling you want to, but...
No. Like, as you say it, like, it makes sense conceptually, and I get it, but it doesn't feel, like, for me, it doesn't feel like this was intentional and very on purpose. Like, that just, I don't know. But
yeah,
any other likes you want to get to before we wrap this one up?
I do like the werewolf design, like you said, like it was really good. But the funny thing is that when you actually see like the werewolf, like the puppetry of it, especially when it's in Piccadilly Circus, it does look very like Jim Henson-y, like Labyrinth or Dark Crystal, like where it looks kind of mangy, but it also kind of looks terrified, and I'm just like. It's kind of funny how terrified the werewolf kind of looks like, but more what I'm thinking about, I'm like, well, it is kind of an animal. If you throw like a bear or a wolf in the middle of like the Piccadilly Circus, like in like this huge crowded area, it's going to panic. So you kind of have like the thing. It's like, well, I guess the werewolf's more scared of them than they're the werewolf.
Yeah.
So it kind of checks out. Like, so to me, it's like, I like how, like, even though, like, to me, I'm like, oh, the werewolf's kind of janky, but when I think about it, I'm like, but it kind of works, you know? But other than that, like, that's really all I kind of got. I wish I had a little more, but I probably did when we first tried recording this, but...
Again, as always, we're scuffed. Yeah, I overall think it was a decent movie. It was just kind of flat for my tastes. I'm hoping that like it's not a werewolf thing and it was just this movie because it was an early iteration of you know, the model, but so be it.
To me, I honestly would like to see this get remade because I think there's enough here that you could actually tweak it enough to have it be like a very like extremely fantastic. Like, there's enough that you can do with this to actually, like, improve upon it.
Yeah, I would watch a remake, probably. All right.
That being said, I will say this, although I have watched this more than once, but I definitely would, like, recommend somebody watching it at least once, and if it's not your thing, you know?
Yeah, not awful. I'm not telling you don't watch it. I just told you, like, it wasn't for me. But yeah, I mean, worth the watch once. I'd watch it if it gets remade, but I don't know that I'll go back to this as is. Anyway, as always, thank you for checking this one out. We've got 2 more videos coming out this week for the werewolf theme, right? 2 more?
Yep, The Howling and The Howling 2, which The Howling 2 is my favorite werewolf movie of all time. And that's because it's just an experience.
Okay. Next 2 weeks, we've also got videos coming.
It's horrible.
That was barely in fucking English, dude. You just assaulted everyone's ears. Fuck, dude. Anyway, so 2 more movies left this week. We'll have videos coming out on Thursday and Friday. Next week and the week following, Monday through Friday, every single day, you get another video for this horror spooky month theme. Happy October. As always, if you guys want to check us out, we watch movies in the Discord on Tuesdays. I think we'll probably have movies, at least 1 more to go by the time that this comes out. I think there'll be 1 movie on Tuesday. Also random other community events that happen within the Discord, so be sure to check all of that out if you're willing to hang out, watch some movies, do some cool stuff, play some games, all that fun stuff. If you're interested in the 2 of us, you can find us both on Twitch, Stallman at Traductus and myself at Ted Green Eagles. As always, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you here tomorrow.
See ya.